Today, we're diving deep into depression, but we're going to look at it from a totally different angle. Not just as something in your head, but as a physical illness that involves your entire body.
You know, for so long, the story has been that depression is purely a mental thing, an emotional struggle. But what if that's not even close to the whole picture?
Because the science is now painting a much, much clearer picture. And the evidence is just undeniable. Depression has real, measurable, physical effects on our bodies, from our brain cells all the way down to our gut bacteria.
Okay, so let's start at the top, right at the control center, the brain itself, because we're going to see how depression can physically change its very architecture.
So, when we actually look inside the brain, we see two key areas that get thrown completely out of whack. On one side, you have the hippocampus. It's crucial for memory and for telling your body to calm down after stress. Well, it can actually shrink. It loses volume. And on the other side, you have the amygdala, the brain's little alarm system. It goes into overdrive, becoming hyperactive and making us way more reactive to anything negative.
And the changes don't stop there. The prefrontal cortex, which is like the CEO of your brain, handling decision-making and self-control, also shows reduced volume. That's linked to why motivation can just tank. Then you've got the anterior cingulate cortex. This part helps you shift your attention, and when its activity gets messed up, it can feel almost impossible to stop thinking about negative stuff. You just get stuck.
So, speaking of being stuck, a huge reason for that feeling is something called the default mode network, or DMN. Now, this is your brain's daydreaming mode. It kicks in when you're thinking about yourself, dwelling on the past, or worrying about the future. And in depression, this network is running on overdrive.
Honestly, the best way to picture an overactive DMN is like a record player with a needle stuck in a groove, just playing the same sad, self-critical song over and over and over again. That's rumination, and this is the actual brain network behind it.
But here's the thing. The brain isn't just floating in a jar. It's constantly talking to every other part of your body. So now, let's zoom out and see how this becomes a whole body problem.
And gut-brain connection is maybe the most stunning example. It's like a domino effect. First, the balance of your gut bacteria gets thrown off. That can lead to a leaky gut, where bits of bacteria sneak into your bloodstream. Your immune system sees this, freaks out, and triggers inflammation all over your body. And here's the kicker. Those inflammatory signals travel right up to the brain, cross the protective barrier, and directly mess with your mood.
And check this out. This shows you exactly what happens. Your body uses this thing called tryptophan to make serotonin, right? The famous feel-good chemical. But when your body is inflamed, it hijacks that tryptophan. It sends it down a different path entirely, making something called kynurenine instead, which can actually be toxic to your brain cells. So inflammation literally steals the raw materials your brain needs to maintain a stable mood.
Now, this body-wide inflammation has huge consequences. Just look at the heart. The link between depression and heart disease isn't a coincidence. It is a powerful two-way street. Depression fuels heart disease risk through that chronic inflammation, but it works the other way too. Heart disease can trigger depression because the illness itself pumps out inflammatory chemicals that impact the brain. It's a truly vicious cycle.
Our hormone system is also right in the middle of all this. Your thyroid is a perfect example. If it's underactive, hypothyroidism, it slows down your brain's metabolism and can look almost identical to depression. Even the chronic stress from depression itself can actually lower your active thyroid hormone, digging the hole even deeper.
So we've seen how depression is physically written into our brain and our body. But the story gets even bigger, because we're not separate from our environment. What's around us has a profound physical impact on us.
I mean, think about the world we live in. We now know that air pollution can trigger that same systemic inflammation and is linked to higher rates of depression. Constant noise pollution acts like a nonstop stressor, jacking up our cortisol. Even artificial light at night messes with our sleep cycles, which are absolutely essential for a stable mood. These things aren't just minor annoyances, they are biological attacks on our system.
And of course, what we take in from our environment is just as crucial. You got to think of these nutrients as the essential toolkit for your brain. B vitamins are needed to literally build neurotransmitters. Omega-3s are amazing anti-inflammatories. If you don't have these basic raw materials, the brain simply can't do its job right.
And that brings us straight to diet. It's pretty simple, really. A diet full of processed junk and sugar fuels inflammation and wrecks that delicate gut microbiome we just talked about. But on the other hand,
We know that anti-inflammatory diets, like the Mediterranean style, are consistently linked with a lower risk of depression. The food you eat is either feeding the fire of inflammation or helping to put it out.
So, when you put all of these pieces on the table, the brain changes, the body-wide inflammation, the environmental factors, it forces us to completely rethink how we approach not just depression, but our entire concept of health. So, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Depression is not just a brain disease. It's a systemic, whole-body illness. It's a story that we can read in our brain scans, in our blood tests, and see in the very world around us.
And this idea really points to the path forward. To actually make a difference, we have to treat the whole person in their whole environment. Any treatment that just focuses on brain chemistry without even considering inflammation or gut health or nutrition, well, it's missing most of the puzzle. And that leaves us with one final and much, much bigger question. If depression is, in part, a physical response to the world we've built, then maybe just treating the individual isn't enough. It forces us to ask, what do we need to change about our food, our cities, and our environment to create a world that actually supports a healthy mind and a healthy body?